because what I got planned for you guys is a little bit of storytelling today. And this is something completely outside of your drawing world, and it'll put your minds to work in a different way. So I hope you guys are up for that, because that should be, it should be something really different from what you're used to. Have you guys ever taken a storyboard class before, or a writing class? Never? Okay. You guys ever see one of these? This is what I was talking about. Now, this is top secret, so you guys be real good about it. You ever see one of these thick old scripts? One of these babies? Okay, so this is what we get. We get the storyboard artists. After the writers go do their due diligence and work very hard at putting these stories together, we get this, and then we have to idealize what this will look like, what that show is going to look like. So a lot of the things that you have to keep in mind is you have to keep in mind the style of the show. When you storyboard, you have to keep in mind the type of characters you're dealing with, the drawing style. Everything comes into play when you're a board artist. So you kind of have to be a jack of all trades when it comes to animation. You know, you got to have a little bit of each thing in you, like timing, character design, because sometimes they'll give you a new character in the script. All of a sudden you're like, who's this guy? And you don't even know what he looks like. So you got to make him up. You got to make them up. Occasionally they don't have enough time to design things for you. Sometimes even locations. So anyways, we're going to do a little bit of storytelling, and I will give you a little bit of a heads up on this particular show. Again, this is, what show is this? Let me see. Oh, actually, I picked up the wrong script. We already worked on this, so we can talk about this openly. But let's get into it. Let's, since you guys have never worked in storyboard before, let me give you a heads up on how you would begin. Okay, so once you get one of these, the script, you basically read the whole thing, and then you read it again, and then you start to think about locations, how you would show those locations, and the characters acting within the locations. Once you get that kind of sorted out in your head, you start to doodle and do little drawings, which is what you guys are going to do a little bit in the second half of the class. So first you read, then you start to think about it, then maybe you read it again, and then you start to doodle a little bit and see if your ideas make any sense. Okay? So the first thing I'd like to talk to you guys about is how, are you guys good storytellers? Like when you're with your friends, do you tell good stories? Okay, that's a good beginning. That's a good beginning. So how do you open up a story? How do you begin your story? What's the first thing you always do? Any one of you could be.
You gotta set the setting. Like.
Hold on, let me turn this up a little bit. Hold on.
The time, the place, the mood, just set the setting. No?
Okay. Why are you so small? This is weird. I just tapped on you, and all of a sudden you got really tiny. That's weird. I don't know what I did just now.
We see you totally fine.
You can see me, but all of a sudden your window got really small.
Oh, I know what happened, and it's sort of up on your screen. I know. Just click on it. I think you must have shrunk the page or something.
Yeah, it shrunk, and I'm tapping on it, but I'm not getting anything. You know, I'm not getting any of the Jesus Christ. I love Zoom.
You know, Orlando, you can get off and come back in it.
Is that the best way? Isn't there?
To be honest, I
Are you on your Mac? What are you on?
No, I'm not on Mac. I'm on Windows right now.
Oh, I don't know.
This is crazy. You guys are so tiny.
then really honestly, just get off and come back on.
Okay, I'll get off and come back on. Okay.
The easiest to do it. Yeah.
I can't, it's unbelievable. Leave meeting.
We'll miss you.
Ah.
It actually is such a
You
learning.
see, this is when one of you should know how to fix this. I know I should be the one, but who knows? It is what it is. I don't know what he did that the screen went. I'm sure there's an answer to all of that somewhere.
Speaker view.
Yeah, I think speaker view, but I think on next to it is like enter full screen or okay, he's coming. I have to
Maybe gallery view.
No, but sometimes it really shrinks and I know I had experienced that. So I don't know why he couldn't fix it, but I don't know either how to. I'll look into it. Oh God, that cat is gonna destroy you. I'm telling you.
See, you see what happens when you're late? Everything goes wrong. Everything goes wrong. And all I did was tap on you guys to try to show that. Forget it. It's not even going on about. I was about to start. So how do you tell a story? So Shauna, you were about to tell me how you would open up on a story, right? Like if you were just talking to your friends and you were just like going to tell them something that happened, what's the first thing you say?
I was saying how I like explain the setting, like where I was and
where you were, right?
what
You establish it. Yeah, you establish location. So it's like, guess what happened to me at Walmart today, right? Something like that. Okay, so you guys all have something to write on? Everybody? Okay, so number one, establishing. Write that down, establishing. And now we're talking about how to do this the traditional way, the way it's done in most shows. But then we're going to talk about how it's done untraditionally, which is most of the movies you see nowadays. So after you say, okay, I was in blah, 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 I was in Walmart, or I was at the store, or I was at somebody's house, what's the next thing? Tay, how about you? What's the next thing you say in your story when you're talking to your friends?
Like what had happened?
Yeah, like after you say, okay, you know what happened to me at Walmart today? What's the next thing that you go into?
I would start explaining what happened at Walmart.
Right, but it would probably be a person or somebody that you had an interaction with. So on number two, put down introduction of character. Okay, or problem, or situation. Okay, depending on what the story entails. Okay, and then three is on you, Justin. Right after you do your establishing and you say, hey, you know, I was at Walmart and I ran into John. What's the next step?
After that, you would probably start to explain what happened.
You'd probably start to explain what happened, and then the story starts to take place. Okay, so now we're in the beginning of the story. So as soon as you hit three, you're in the beginning of your story. So as you guys know, a story is three-part, right? You got your beginning, your middle, and your end. And when you get to the end, you got to tie everything together. So it's very important that you start well and don't lose any of the people. Because if you're talking to your friends and you don't say, I was in Walmart, say, I was just out today and I ran into John and this happened. And they were like, where were you at? So now, you know, you left out Walmart and no one knows where you were. So this is the importance of the beginning of a story. Okay. And those three steps is what we're going to work on today. Because I know you guys see a lot of movies, a lot of shows. You watch a lot of Netflix and stuff. Okay. So how many of you have seen this not take place in new movies and in new shows? Sometimes you turn on a show and you're in a car, or you're in the middle of a problem, or someone is getting shot at, or you know, something's going on that you can't make heads or tails about. You're like, what's happening right now? You know, that is a way that filmmakers try to roll into, to try to catch your attention really quickly, as opposed to trying to break down where this takes place and everything else. They'll tell you that after the fact. They'll tell you that later. They basically want to catch your attention real quick with something really strong, with a strong image, right? So that you'll be like, whoa, what's that? You know, and then once you're all into it, then they'll slow it down. And then they'll start telling you about the character, and then they'll explain to you where this takes place and things like that. But I'm sure you've seen a bunch of shows and a bunch of movies where you start off with a long shot, a very wide shot of the city of New York. And maybe there's a car that's driving across that, and it's panning with that car, so that you know that your character is in that car and he's in the city of New York. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's the traditional way. The untraditional way is if you're in a car and you're getting shot at by some unknown person behind you. You don't know who the guy in the car is. You don't know who the guy in the back of the car getting shooting the shots is, and you don't know where it's taking place. You're just
Then they go,
mixed.
and they go, you're probably wondering how I got here.
Yeah, you're like, oh my God, what's happening? You know, you're like, you're just thrown into the action. Okay, so that has an effect, obviously, and you can backtrack later and show where this thing takes place. You can do that. Now, here's the difference between a show like, you know, Bob's, right? Simpsons, shows like that, you know, that are on the air, and they have a certain formula. And their formula is the traditional, the first one we spoke about. And that's the one I want to work on first. And then later on, I want you guys to just jump into your imagination and figure out a different way of doing it without doing it traditionally. Does that sound good? It's pretty crazy, but you're going to find that you can tell a story in so many different ways. And this is the same thing when you do storyboarding. That's what happens. You have 20 different ideas for one shot. And you're like, how do I make up my mind? Which one's the right one? You know, there's where your directors and your producers will come in later, and you'll sit in a meeting and they'll be like, you know, I like that shot, but it doesn't work with this. Or that's the perfect shot. Now we got to change what happens behind it. You know what I mean? Those are the type of changes that happen along the way while you're doing the show. So that particular gig, the gig of a storyboard artist, it's almost like you're blueprinting the show, pretty much. You know, you're getting words, and now you're visualizing, and you blueprint what everyone else will see. Okay? And then you'll get some secondary information from the directors and the producers that you will actually make some changes in your board or bring into whatever it is that you did. Whatever the changes are or add-ons, that's your job to put in. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So I'm going to read to you the first page, and this is Fast Times Capsules at Wagstaff. Fast Time Capsules at Wagstaff. Do you guys watch the show? Bob's Burgers at all? You guys familiar? Yeah? Okay. So here's Act 1. This is how it begins. So I want you guys to write this down, because I want you guys to do it to basically do a traditional pass on this first, okay? And using your own characters. I'm not going to give you I'm just going to give you names, okay? All right. So this is Fade In, Act 1. Exterior Wagstaff School lawn day. Did everybody get that? Exterior of Wagstaff School lawn day. Okay, so that would be your title. Okay, so now I'm gonna lose you a second so that I can show you guys.
Are you gonna share the screen?
Yes, host has disabled. Okay, yeah, I need you to open me up.
I open you up.
Okay. I'm gonna do it on the whiteboard so that you can get an idea of what this should look like. Okay, so basically what you want to do is draw, let's do 6 panels. Okay, let's do 6 panels. And what I'm gonna do is try to email you guys something you could use. Did you guys get my last email?
Yes.
Everyone did? Okay.
Was that after the first class?
After the first class, yeah, I sent you
Yeah.
guys. I'm gonna send you one that has a breakdown for storyboarding. So this is panel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so traditionally we're going to use this one as the establishing shot. So I'm sorry, establishing. Okay, and then we're going to move on to the other panels. But let's talk about this a second. Exterior of Wagstaff School Lawn Day. That should go here. So I would just put exterior Wagstaff School Day. Okay. Now let me tell you what's happening. Students are assembled on the school lawn. Mr. Branca removes a weathered time capsule from a hole in the ground and sets it on a table by Mr. Frond. Okay, so what type of shot do you think that is? Let's talk about shots now, because now that you're getting into the story, each time I give you some information, you have to kind of incorporate it into your shots. Okay, whether it has dialogue or not. This doesn't have any dialogue. This would just be your establishing. Okay, so consider you have to show a lot of students, right? You have to show Mr. Frond, and you have to show Mr. Branca. Mr. Branca doesn't get a lot of play in the show, but right now he's digging a hole and he's pulling out a capsule out of it. So these time capsules have been done for years. You know, there were some in the 50s that they wanted people to open up in the 2000s. And so this is the idea of this opening shot. So what type of shot would you use for this? Any ideas?
Maybe like a faraway shot.
Okay, it's not called a faraway shot. It's called a wide shot.
Yeah.
But in this case, when you have to show this many people, it would probably be an extreme long shot of the school. Okay, we can introduce who's doing the digging in the second shot, but you need an extreme long shot, something much wider, not because you have to show so many kids. You know, imagine a whole school sitting in the lawn outside the back of the school, and you know, 2 principal characters one doing the digging and one waiting to have it dug out. So to show that, okay, if I was drawing it myself, I would. Okay, so the other thing is we have to remember is where it takes place. So because if I just showed the lawn, there's just people on a lawn, but this takes place at the Wagstaff School. So we have to show the school. Okay, so let's consider that. We could do this in many ways. So now we're talking about different ways of shooting the shot. If I just drew the school, let's say the school was here. Right. And then here are the 2 main characters. And then all this surrounding them would be kids. Right? And then you put a bunch of heads in there. Right? And then I could see the hole right here. Right? I could start to possibly drift in on something like this and take my time with a shot like this. Okay? Does that you notice how I surrounded the main players with all these kids? These are the two main guys right here, right here. In the middle, right in the middle of the frame. Your eyes are always going to go to the middle of the frame. So when you have an important character that you want to show, you put them in the middle of the frame when you're boarding. Okay. So right now we're introducing. You see the school right here. You see the two characters right here, and then you see the kids surrounding that whole scenario. And basically, what we're going to do is drift in slow. Okay. And maybe we drift in slow when the dialogue starts to happen. And the dialogue is, the first set of dialogue is from Mr. Franz, who is one of the two main characters there. And what he says is, here it is, the time capsule that was buried at Wagstaff 50 years ago. Thank you, Mr. Branco, for digging it up. Okay? So that's the dialogue. We could start that dialogue right here. And we could say, here it is, right? And continue that to maybe 50 years ago, right? Up to 50 years ago. And then continue the dialogue in the next panel, right? Where he says, thank you, Mr. Branco, for digging it up, right? So thank you for digging it up. Okay, so maybe in this shot, we're basically on those two guys. So what type of shot would you guys use for that? Do we still need to be wide? We already established location and everything. What do you think we could do there? Any ideas? Okay, so here's what I would do. Okay, and I want you guys to think about this on your own, because you've seen a lot of movies and a lot of ways of doing this. This is just my interpretation of it. Okay, so I would have a few kids' heads still surrounding, right? A few kids. Right, and here's one character, and then the other character would still be leaning down, bringing up the capsule. And then basically in the third shot, this would be the same kids, and here's the same character. And see how rough I'm working, guys? This is how you have to do this. You can't, because the first thing you're going to do is show this to your director, and he's going to tell you, I don't like that angle. And then you're going to have to draw it again. So why would you put any effort into it? You just want to show where these people are going to be, okay? Where the camera's going to be, okay? And then we'll talk a little bit more about the camera in a second. But at this point, I would have this guy stand up, right, with the capsule in his hand. Right, so he comes back up. And at this point, the second dialogue is Mr. Branco. He says, not my job, but it's okay. Okay, so he's like, not my job, but it's okay. Okay, so he would be doing the speaking there, and he would obviously be looking down, talking to Branco at this point. Thank you for digging it up. Now, is that clear to you guys? Yeah? You see where it's taking place. You see the two main characters. I introduced them as quickly as I could. I introduced them in the beginning, so you can see them in the center of the screen. I introduced them in the second panel, so that you can see who's doing the talking and who's doing the digging. Okay, and then in the third panel, I pretty much ended Mr. Branco's dialogue, right? So right after Mr. Branco, we have Jocelyn, which is one of the kids. She says, "Oh, I thought there was a guy buried in the name, and his name was Tim Capsule." That was I thought it was a guy buried there named Tim Capsule. So this is Jocelyn. So I didn't put Jocelyn in here anywhere, right? I didn't put her anywhere. But let's say Jocelyn is here, right here, next to her girlfriend, right? So she's right here. So now when we go to her dialogue where she says, oh, I thought there was a guy buried in that hole instead. We can go right to Jocelyn and the kids, right? And all the kids could look at her like, what, are you kidding me or what? Right? So she could just say, oh, I thought blah, 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 blah. And then the kids all look at her. So the kids would all look at Jocelyn like, is she for real? Right? And then Mr. Fran, no. Mr. Fran is the next dialogue. No. It's actually, let me see, checks stone marker. Oh, so Mr. Fran checks the stone marker and he says, no, it's actually does say Tim Capsule. Maybe that's how you spelled it back then. Anyway, let's crack it open, shall we? And lending a hand will be a student volunteer, Tina. So that's where we introduce Tina. So basically, when I look at this shot, the second shot right here, I have to know where Mr. Branca, Mr. Frond, Jocelyn, and Tina are going to be, because they're all going to play into the shot, every single one of them. So here's the planning stages. So this was a quick overview of what I was thinking in my mind. Remember we said we would read it, put some doodles down, and then go back and do it again? Okay. So now, if I did this, and I had Tina in this shot, let's say Tina was back here. Let's say Tina was back here, right? Right behind Jocelyn. And we go back to Fran, but this time we're closer. This time we're closer on Fran, right? And here is, and he's holding the capsule, whatever, at this point. And here's Branca, right? So he says his spiel, no, blah, 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 and we're gonna have help from Tina. So we can go right back to this same shot that we had here before on number 4, right? And Tina could just come walking right through the crowd. Right past Jocelyn, in other words, towards Mr. Fran. Right, so she walks towards Mr. Fran, and I'm gonna do just one more down here, just to clear this whole thing out. Okay, and then I would go to a side shot. Here's Mr. Fran, Mr. Branca, here's the capsule that he's holding, and here are the kids, right? Here are the kids, and here comes Tina. And she would have walked out of the crowd. How's that? Does that make sense to you guys? Did I lose you in any one of these shots? Okay, so that's storyboarding. That's the first page of this. This script is, let me give you a rundown of how many pages. They've gotten longer, by the way. They used to just be like 43, 40, 44 pages. This script is 61 pages.
Oh, wow.
We used to have 3 acts. Now we have 4 acts.
Really?
To give more commercials.
Oh,
So we have more breaks. It's about 22 minutes, 23 minutes at the most that we have to animate. But yeah, okay, let me not get away from this. So is there anything there that you guys can't make out, that doesn't make sense, or that I lose you as an audience member? Because let's say you're the producers, okay? And I'm pitching this to you as that this is the way I would open up the show. Maybe the producer said, you know, I don't like that. Maybe what we should do is start on the school and then cut to the kids. And I'd be like, okay, so without redrawing it, how about if we do this? If instead of basically starting on that one shot, how about we start up here on the school? Up here on the school with some clouds and stuff, right? And then we pan to that shot that we had originally. That's called a tracking shot or a pan shot. And that way I make him happy. If he says, no, I want to start on the school, you got to think quick and say, okay, how do I do that without redrawing this whole thing? I said, well, what if we start up here and then we, either we cut out or we widen out or we just slowly pan out to the back of the school. He said, yeah, that'll work. Boom. Then everything else. If he likes everything else, then we're good. But he might have a whole different idea. And this is where you guys come in. So I'm gonna give you guys a few minutes and I'm gonna erase this so you don't get mixed up. I want you guys to do the first 6 panels like I did, up until where Tina walks out of the crowd after she's introduced by Mr. Fran, where he says, okay, let's crack this open, shall we? And then he says, and lending a hand will be student volunteer Tina. So at that point, Tina will walk out of the crowd, wherever she is, or wherever you want to put her. I put her behind Jocelyn just to make a little bit more fun of Jocelyn. Her walking past Jocelyn after her stupid remark, I thought would be funny. Sometimes the writers don't like that when we step on their jokes, but he might not like that shot. But that's what I think is funny. So you got to start with what you think is funny. Okay? So I'm going to read it out to you again. If you want to write it, write it. And then you're going to do this in your own style, your own way. Okay? Now, we're going to talk about 2 things after I see your drawings. You guys will be able to share with me, right? What you're doing? Yeah? Okay, cool. All right. So the only thing that I want you to, before we start, I'm gonna clear this. The only thing that I'd like you to remember is when you start a wide shot, you either keep your, well, I did a down shot. I didn't talk about that, but on my first drawing, you notice it was a down shot. It was a bird's eye view of the school and of the yard so that I could show the floor, right? So that I could show the floor because they just dug something out of it. So I could show the lawn so that you could see the lawn, okay? But when you do a wide shot, a lot of people just put their establishing point of view really low so that they can show, let's say, a city, right? A city or something, and far away. Or if the shot that we were talking about before, let's say that it's a bridge, right? Right. Let's say it's a bridge, and we're following a car across the road. They want to show the city back here, so that you can get an idea of location. So this is a very wide shot, right? This is a very long, extreme long shot. And this would not be, this would just be a long shot. So either one of these would work on an established show because most people know the show, but this is your idea. You can do either or, okay? This is the way you would do it, okay? So what I want you to do now is write down the few dialogues of the script. You already know where it takes place, okay? The establishing shot is at Wagstaff School. And then I'm going to give you the dialogue in order so that you can put in your little squares, okay? First part of the dialogue is Mr. Fran. And this is what he says. Here it is, the time capsule that was buried at Wagstaff 50 years ago. Thank you, Mr. Branca, for digging it up. Okay? And then, of course, Mr. Branca comes back with, not my job, but it's okay. Okay, so that's your introduction to Mr. Fran, who right now is the main character, and the secondary character would be Mr. Branca. Okay, everybody got that far? Okay, so the next set of dialogue is Jocelyn. She goes, oh, I thought there was a guy buried there named Tim Capsule. So she's usually the one that's never caught up. So, she's always got something to say. And then we jump back to Mr. Fran. No, he checks the stone marker. Now, when I say something like he checks the stone marker, right? That is a point in the storyboard process that happens later. You don't have to do that now. You know, right now we're just looking at shots. Later on, you have to put in acting and all that other stuff. Okay, but right now we don't need all that. We just need to make sure that they like the shots that we're putting together, and that we're not losing the audience. Most importantly, you have to make sure you're not losing the audience. Okay, so he says, no, it's actually, it does say Tim Capsule. Maybe that's how they spelled it back then. Anyway, let's crack it open, shall we? And lending a hand will be student volunteer Tina. Tina steps to the other side of the time capsule. And that's where she steps forward in that shot that I did for you guys. So let me clear this. And I'm gonna draw a few squares in here for later when I see you guys, your drawings. And I will send you guys something that you can work on if you guys are gonna do this class again. Something that you can work on next time we meet, next Friday. And let's try to do next Friday, Raduca. I'll try not to be late. I'm so sorry.
That's fine. Do not apologize. This is fantastic. So I was wondering the following. Do you want them to draw as homework and you move on?
You know, we talked about that. I don't know.
I mean, meaning instead of doing it and we wait around, they can.
Yeah, because it's a whole week.
Yeah, they have a whole week to really think about it, and they can keep referring back to this video, and you can move on now to the non-traditional way of storyboarding, so you can cover more stuff.
Right. That's exactly the plan for today. The non-traditional is what I want them to do on their own. But today I'm going to cover traditional so that they know how it was always done. You know, in the old Disney movies and all the old movies were done traditionally. And so even some of the shows, like the show that I work on, it's done traditionally. And so once you got that covered, you can do it any way you want. But the important thing is not to lose your audience and have them guessing. You can't have them guessing. And so a little homework is obviously up to you guys. But I'm going to email you a piece of the script so that you guys can carry it forward. Okay? You guys can carry it forward and see how you would do it in a non-traditional way. So, you know, this is probably the toughest class, you know, and when you're a beginner, it's a lot to take in, but we're going to go slow. We're not going to push this. And I don't know, Raduca, but you know, if we get a chance to do more classes later, we can pick up from this point to, you know, as opposed to doing the same class all over again.
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah, that's great. Sure.
We can pick up from the fourth week forward, you know. So yeah, so let me give you guys the dialogue one more time in case you missed anything. Okay, the first set of dialogue, Mr. Front, he says, here it is, the time capsule that was buried at Wagstaff 50 years ago. And then he looks to Mr. Bronco and says, thank you, Mr. Bronco, for digging it up. Mr. Bronco replies, not my job, but it's okay. And then we either cut to Jocelyn or Jocelyn says, oh, I thought there was a guy buried in there named Tim Capsule. Mr. Fran goes, no, it does say Tim Capsule. Maybe that's how they spelled it back then. Anyway, let's crack it open, shall we? And lending a hand will be student volunteer, Tina. And then Tina steps out of the crowd, and that's where we're stopping right now. Okay, so take a shot at it traditionally. Take a shot at it, and let me see what you guys come up with. Okay, and you saw how quick I put it together, so don't overthink it. Just put it down the way you see it in your head. Don't start. Am I doing this right? Picture it like a movie in your head, and put down what you see, and then I'll let you know if something's not right. Okay, that way we can cover all the do's and don'ts in storyboarding, because there are quite a few. Remember the word rough, you guys. Don't put too many details in. I think I found a good page for you guys. I'm gonna email this to you guys so that you could do this on your spare time. This would be funny.
You want to see what I have?
Yeah. I'm gonna take a picture of that. All right.
It's probably backwards.
It is.
Anna,
Yeah.
maybe we need to like if you can share the screen, because I think you should be able to.
But I didn't draw it digitally. That's the thing.
Oh, got
Yeah,
it.
when you if they work on the whiteboard, they can share that, can't they?
Yeah, I think you can. Oh, because yeah, you don't have it in. I got it. Yeah.
If you worked on your whiteboard, can you share that?
Yeah, but I didn't work on my whiteboard.
You know what, Hannah? Maybe you can take a picture and send it into the chat room. And we
In,
can.
in the future, I think the easiest way would be to use the whiteboard. I thought they were all using the whiteboard.
I don't know if they do. To be honest, I didn't ask.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're working on, obviously. But if you're working on paper, it might be backwards. So let me see it again, Sean. Yes, that's actually really good.
Thank
And
you.
it's not backwards, you know.
It's not?
No, go ahead, you show it again. I saw one to the left, so it's not backwards at all. No, it's perfect. It's not coming out backwards.
Oh, yay. So,
What did you get out of that? Do you see how basically visually you're telling your audience exactly how this took place, and you're bringing them right to the moment, right?
yeah.
And visually you're telling the story almost better than you could ever tell it with words, because you know, with words people imagine it completely differently from what you saw. So that's what storyboarding is all about right there. You know, what comes after is the animation.
I also did mine.
Let me see.
If it's backwards, I can flip the canvas.
No, it's not backwards. Okay, hold it there. Very good, guys. I like that. These guys are good. Awesome job, Justin. You ever done that before?
No, but I've seen like videos of comparing the storyboards to the actual finished episodes of shows.
Oh yeah. Sometimes there's a lot of changes. Good job, though. Good job, both of you guys. Good job. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about different shots and what you would use them for. You just basically used the wide shot for an establishing, right? You did a good job on that. You used the wide shot. If you're using an extreme wide shot, it's a similar thing, but you're just taking more time. That's all it really is. You're taking more time to establish something with an extreme shot. I'm trying to think of a movie with an extreme shot. There's so many. I'm sure you've seen plenty of them where you see like the whole jungle or something, and maybe the camera is just panning through the jungle until you come to your character. You know, it could be something like that. But pan shots are also used a lot in establishing. You know, you're panning from one thing to another, following a car, for example, like we talked about earlier, you know, crossing the bridge, or even a shot like through the country. Through the country, you just see trees and beautiful countryside. All of a sudden, you see a road, a car is introduced into that shot, and then you start following the car. And it's a very long, wide shot that you follow for a while, and then it starts to cut in, cut in, cut in, until you're basically inside that car and you know who's driving. Okay, so that's your establishing, and that's a wide shot. Okay, can you guys name any other shots that come to mind? How about an extreme close-up? Yeah, that one. What would you do that one for?
If someone's pissed or like some extreme emotion, I feel like.
Extreme emotion, like your eyes, maybe you're angry and your eyes start to narrow, and you go ahead.
I was just watching the Umbrella Academy before the class, and they used like a really close up of the one character's eye when they were like drugging him.
It's crazy see, in animation you can do so many crazy things, you know, with these shots. It's bananas what you can put together. Yeah, an extreme close-up like that, you can basically turn somebody's stomach with one of those. You know, you've seen those shots where maybe there's a needle going in an eye. Ouch. Yeah, Justin. Absolutely. I do the exact same thing you just did. It's crazy, but those shots are used for things of that nature. Or, you know, you maybe a quick look to the left, a character taking a quick look to the left or to the right, and you want to show that in a very close-up shot, you want to show that look before you go into the action, you cut into an extreme close-up. Now let's talk about regular shots. You guys know what an over-the-shoulder shot is? And this is, I'm gonna draw some of these, okay? So we just talked about an extreme close-up, right? So here's that eye, and here's that needle going towards the eye. Scary, 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 scary as that needle gets closer and closer to the eye, okay? So an over-the-shoulder shot is when we're on someone's back and this particular character is doing the talking. This is an over shoulder.
These both remind me of when my cousin made me watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure with him.
Why is that? They did things that shot a lot, is that why?
Well, there's a famous scene where they use the over the shoulder. And then there was a point in the second episode of the second season where someone got stabbed in the eye with a pen.
Yeah, we did both of those. That's awesome. Yeah, you won't forget those shots, will you? They're stuck in your mind forever. Oh my God. Well, this is a good thing that as an artist, you can do things that people will never forget. What would you say that shot is? It's an over the shoulder, but what would you call it? Would you have a name? Would you name it? Long, close?
Well, I guess it might be a bit of a longer one because it's kind of situated above their shoulders, but you can see their whole bodies, that sort of thing.
Right. Right. This is waist high. So this would be a medium. That's a medium over the shoulder. Along the way you're describing it would probably show this whole character. And this other character over here.
I hate when TV shows just do the over-the-shoulder shots for dialogue only. When, like, that's the only shot they do.
Yeah, it's the go-to.
It's horrible, though.
And here's the thing, as a filmmaker, you can create any type of shot you want. Like, for example, on Bob's, they never want me to do this cutoff right here. They want me to show the whole thing, like so. They never want me to cut off the over-the-shoulder guy. Now, here's the funny, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but everything on Bob's is centered. So if I have a character that's doing some talking or whatever, and there's people listening, he'll be in the middle. And if I'm doing it over the shoulder, they would prefer something like this. Because that's the style of the show. Style of the show is very centered. You know, but traditional movie making, it's more like this one that we first did. That's more traditional, and we're talking about traditional right now. You guys can do whatever you want later, but right now let's talk about that. Okay, so we covered the medium, and we covered the extreme long, the extreme close. Okay. This is an over the shoulder long. Okay. So now let's do a close up. Okay. This is a close up shot. Right, dead center like Bob would like. In a traditional form, you would have, since he's looking kind of 3/4 right here, we know that he's talking in this direction, so you would have extra space on this side of the screen. It would look like that. Okay, on Bob's, it would be right in the middle because of their style. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking about Bob, but that would be a close-up. That would be an extreme close-up. And a close-up could even be in here. You know, you could just be on the head for a close-up. Like so. Okay, and these very rough drawings is your first pass at your ideas. Because then you're gonna leave, and then you're gonna come back, and then you're gonna look at them and say, you know, instead of doing it this way, right? Why don't I change that shot? You know, when you're looking at the medium over the shoulder, you know, these guys are angry at each other. Why not do it from the side, right? Why not do it and show it in this manner? Because they're angry at each other. So let me do it this way. When you want to show people in conflict, is usually, you know, from the side. And it doesn't have to be close up. It could be a long shot. It could be anything. But you want to show it more from the side when you get into an argument or a fight or anything like that. You want to, this really, you know, especially if you start getting close and you start having one guy yelling, right, at someone else. And you notice how I'm tilting this head back like, oh my God, am I about to get hit now? You know? And of course you can push this guy forward even more. And that shows you that type of it gives you that kind of a feel. So you're trying to create a certain feeling in the audience. You're just telling a story, but you're trying to create a feeling also. You can't forget that. You want them to feel the emotions that these characters are going through. So that's important to do in your shot. It's important. But right now, this would be a side view medium shot. Profile medium shot. That also, this profile up here, you know, when you go to those profile close-ups like that, they can be pretty scary. You know, especially if you're doing a scary story. Those shots are good to keep in your head. So let's talk about more emotional shots. Okay, so we covered the important shots. There's a lot, you know, there's pans. Like, example, what if we wanted to have this guy point, say what he has to say, and then turn around and leave? You know, we're gonna pan out this way, and he'll walk out angry, right? Right, so he'll turn around, say what he has to say, and turn around, and then we'll basically follow him wherever he's going and leave this guy out of the frame. There's your pan shot. Okay, is this stuff making sense? Am I losing anybody? Yeah, it's making sense? Okay, so let's talk about a couple more shots that give a certain emotion to the audience, right? Let's do, no, it's not clear, let me erase. Let's do, so earlier I showed you a down shot, and a couple of you did a down shot for your first draft, did a down shot for your establishing. So let's say I'm standing up here, my character's standing up here on top of a building, right? And here's the building. And there's somebody down here, right? And here's maybe here's the next building, right? And he's standing over him. What do you think we're saying with a shot like that? Anything? Does that mean anything when you look at it? Does that give you any kind of a feeling?
It makes him more powerful, I feel like.
I couldn't hear you, Sean.
It makes him more powerful?
It does. It makes him more powerful, and it puts this guy in some sort of like a dangerous position, right? Even in war, you know, you always want the high ground. So yeah, it kind of gives you that feeling of, oh my God, you know, I'm in danger. If you had a guy shooting from the roof at this guy's a sitting duck. You know, how about if we reverse that, right? These are ways to get your point across to the audience so that they can feel what you're trying to say. This guy could be in the shadows completely back here, right? And this guy could be just a sitting duck down there, and this guy could walk in. You know, who knows? Maybe with a gun in his hand or something, and you can actually get a good point across to the audience that this guy doesn't have a shot in hell of getting out of the situation. Okay, how about if you have here's a over the shoulder but centered this time, and you have a bunch of guys towering over this dude. What does that tell you? Similar type of danger, right?
That the guy in the middle's in danger.
Yeah, he's about to get bullied. Yeah, he's about to get bullied or okay, so that's done with a slide up shot. This is a slide up shot. So basically, even if they're all the same size, we're shooting, the camera is going to be behind him shooting up. Shooting up behind him so that all these other people look taller. Little things, right? It makes a ton of difference when you start putting these little shots in your head and you start to learn how to use them. It makes a ton of difference because sometimes the writers don't even think about this, but yet visually you've seen it a million times. You know, you've seen these shots in all types of movies, shows, and everything. They're used for a reason, to get that emotion out of you, to make you feel like, oh my God, he's in trouble. What is he gonna do? You know, I'll give you. Let's talk about the reverse of that shot, of this shot right here. What about that's this guy, right? And he's looking up. And all you see is maybe shadows coming over him as these guys step into the shot. So as these guys step into the shot, you see this guy being shadowed up, right? By their presence. Same thing. And from a different angle. Now this is a down shot. That's a slide up shot. This is a slight down shot. But we're getting the same kind of feeling, right? This guy's about to get beat up or something. Something bad is about to happen. How does he get out of this mess? Right? So the camera now is up here. Okay. That makes sense? How are we doing on time, Raduca?
We are fine.
We're good?
I mean, we are coming close to the end.
Yeah, I want them to, you know what, draw some of these if you can. I know I erased a couple, but draw some of these if you can so that you remember some of these shots and maybe even use them. Maybe even use some of these shots. If you can implement some of these shots, that's great. Obviously, it's not the needle in the eye. don't do the needle in the eye.
Or the pen in the eye.
I did a shot one time on a show that never made the air, where there was a guy. There was two detectives coming to an apartment where a guy had been shot in the head, and he was like leaning back in his chair, right, with his head back. And the way it was written is like they look at the injured person and they had some dialogue. So I did a shot where, and this is, it's pretty bad, but it might have got me. It might have got me that job. I'm not sure, but I think they liked it. It was something like this. Because he was shot in the back of his head and he had a big hole in his head. So I had all this gory stuff, right? All this gory stuff. It looked like blood and stuff like that, right? Dripping and stuff like this. And I had the two detectives looking in through into his head.
Oh my God.
You could only do that in animation.
So what do you call that one?
Looking into his head like, wow, they really put a hole in this guy. And I think that shot got me the gig because they didn't ask for that. So this is what I mean. You have to kind of get into your brain and do something completely that's not on paper. That when I give you, I'm going to send you guys a script and do things that you don't see on paper that comes to your head. First ideas are always good to put down. And then later on, you'll walk away and come back, and then you'll have another idea. Okay, so you just work rough, just like I'm doing, and see what you come up with. But yeah, that shot turned a lot of heads. It's crazy how one little shot can maybe get you a job or, create a situation for you that you didn't expect. For me, I was just having fun. I just thought it was funny. Putting the camera inside the guy's head, actually. That to me was great. And this is something you couldn't possibly do like in live action. Maybe you could do it now, but you know what I mean? How do you put a camera in a
You would need to use CGI for that.
There you go.
Or maybe some spaghetti around the camera.
A lot of spaghetti, yeah. That's exactly how I drew it too. With a lot of blood leaking and it's terrible.
That's amazing.
It was gory. It was gory. But yeah, Raduca.
This is wonderful. We'll see you next week, actually, on Monday.
Yes, Monday. I should be perfect on time. Again, I'm sorry. My apologies for the delay.
Please, thank you. We appreciate so much.
No problem.
Yes.
No problem. What I'll do is I'll send you guys. So I think I only have 3 of the. Do we still have 4 people?
Rafael might come in and out. So if
okay, yeah, I don't have it. I don't have everybody's email. I don't think.
I think you have all these guys' emails, right? Guys.
I think I have 3 out of the 4. Yeah, I have 3 out of the 4.
Then let's do 3, and if the 4th comes, we'll send it. So don't worry about it.
Okay. And I will send you guys something for this class. I already sent you the information for Monday. Maybe I'll send you guys something for Wednesday's class as well. I'll give you guys a heads up on what we'll work on, and then that way you can practice. It's not homework, but it's practice. Okay, do what you can, do what you want, and that way you could be a little bit more advanced when I show you and explain the shots to you. Okay.
That's great. Thank
All
you,
right.
Rose. Thank you so much.
Oh, my
See you
pleasure.
next week. Thank you.
Good seeing all of you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.